Hello, my name is Abby Linville, and this is my Module 12 case study for EDL 854. Today, the case study involves this elementary school, Briardale Elementary School. It is headed by a principal named Carl Santos. It is located in a very diverse community that has a really strong community support behind them. The elementary school has a K through 5 setting with about 600 students. It's one of 6 elementary schools in the district. The principal is really confident in his abilities to run the school and in his relationships within the community. All the teachers that work there have been at the school for quite some time. They have a good retention of teachers. The school has very strong community ties as far as they host events in the community at their school because they have a large open space that can fit many people in it. The school has their funds for curricular programs designated to them by the superintendent of the school district. The rest of the funds that will supplement the funds that will be designated for supplementary curriculums are raised through foundations that are formed by parents in each building in the district. They raise money through fundraising, and then that money is then allocated and split amongst the schools and provided to the site principal with recommendations from the foundations on how they would like that money to be spent. This school year, there is a new foundation president for Briardale Elementary School, and it is a parent whose name is Mr. Bairley. He is a Harvard graduate, and one of his fellow classmates from Harvard is a head of a foundation at another school. And it is very competitive. There's a competitive spirit amongst all of the foundations because they want to raise the most money for the students in the district. And so Mr. Bairley is coming into it with a want to be competitive and beat his old classmates, and he comes up with an idea to hold a raffle for cash event, and he brings this idea to the foundation and they agree upon it. He has also talked previously before this to Mr. Santos, the principal, and he has kind of outlined some of those policies that the district has. He talks to Mr. Santos. Mr. Santos agrees to host the raffle for cash event. At the night of the raffle drawing, the sheriff department comes and arrests Mr. Bairley. He is later charged and convicted of a misdemeanor because holding a raffle without a license is illegal. So the school district and Mr. Santos are very embarrassed, and so now they're at a point where they need to make some decisions about how to move forward within the school and within the district as far as it comes to how do you address with the embarrassment within the community because the situation made the front page of the newspaper, and also how do you move forward with funding now that the funding from the raffle for cash event is not there? So that's the situation they're dealing with, and with that comes some legal and ethical concerns. So first off, the reputations of the school and the foundation have been harmed. The community, I'm sure, is feeling a little unsure. They're trusting the school and the foundation with their own personal money and making sure that that money gets into the hands of the school to do things that will benefit the students of the school. The raffle for cash event was illegal because it was agreed upon and hosted by the school. There could maybe be a tie to the school, and maybe they could have a connection with being charged for a crime for hosting the event. So that's a concern that will need to be addressed as well. And then the funding for the supplementary curriculum has been directly affected. Because the funds come from the fundraiser completed by the foundation. That will take a direct hit not only for Briardale, but for the school district as a whole, because it seemed to be through reading the case study that they take all the money from all the foundations and put it together and then allocate the funds out. So here's to summarize what happened in a single sentence. A foundation ran by parent volunteers hosted an illegal raffle for cash event to raise money for Briardale Elementary School. So here are the facts of the case. There are 600 students that go to Briardale Elementary School. The principal is Mr. Carl Santos, and the foundation president is Mr. Bailey. There are several foundation members who oversee the choices made by the foundation president and give feedback to him. He did present the raffle for cash event to them, and they all agreed upon it. So it wasn't a decision that was forced upon them. It was something that they came to an agreement to together. When the foundation makes a recommendation for how they want the supplementary curriculum funds to be spent, that goes to a school site curriculum committee that is headed up by a veteran teacher, and they look over the recommendations for the foundation and then choose to decide if they're going to use that money to purchase that supplementary curriculum that's being asked for by the foundation. They have a very committed staff at Briardale Elementary. They have been there for a long time, and once someone starts there, they tend to stay there. And the community stakeholders have a great interest in the school. The school district has a lot of support for school sports, and they all like to use the school, Briardale Elementary, is kind of their town meeting center. So it's definitely a place where the school means something to community, and that the community is really diverse and has a large group of people in it that come from varying backgrounds. And the community is really active, not only in the foundations, but in the schools as well. The program of the school is a kindergarten through 5th grade school. It is a public school, which means it receives public funding. Briardale, again, is one of the 6 elementary schools. There's a very competitive atmosphere amongst the district, as I mentioned earlier. And that supplementary curriculum, the funding is not clear to everyone, but it is all funded through fundraising that is completed by the foundations. So if I review and prioritize the facts, the situation has had a direct impact on the community and must be addressed. It's something that everyone in the community knows about, and it may be causing them to lose trust in their school. The supplementary curriculum funding will be affected by this, because I am wondering if the funds that were raised will be able to be given back or a choice, but hopefully they can be refunded to the people who donated and purchased raffle tickets. Since there was no raffle, it would be dishonest to keep their money. So that fundraiser no longer works, so they won't have that money to put into the fund any longer. We need to know what the superintendent's thoughts are on this. In the case study, it didn't mention it, and we definitely need to know the feedback from the superintendent. We need to know a little bit more too about how does that supplementary funding work. And we also need to know, is the foundation sponsored by the school, or is it a separate entity? Most of the time, foundations are separate from the school and do not have any involvement with the school. They work closely with the principal to find out what the needs are of the school, but they are a separate entity that do their own separate budget with their own separate policies. So when I think about this case, the problem is that the raffle for cash event happened. It happened, there were consequences for Mr. Bailey, but now the problem has become, how are we going to address it? So there are 3 priorities that I think need to be addressed. First, we need to decide how will the school take responsibility for its role in the raffle for cash event. The second is, how will the school address the lack of funding that's going to take place? And 3, how can we prevent something like this from happening in the future? Because we definitely don't want something like this to happen again, because we want our community to trust us and have faith that we are doing the best that we can for their students. So there are 3 options that we have. The first thing is to not take any action at all, to kind of just see how things go. The second would be to take full responsibility. So apologize to the community and make sure that their money gets refunded to them if possible. To cut the supplementary curriculum programs for the upcoming school year. And the third part of that take full responsibility would be to take steps to end the parent foundations and start to look for other ways to get funding for our supplementary curriculums. The third option would be to acknowledge some shared responsibility. So that would look like apologizing to the community for not ensuring all policies are in place, and make sure that, if possible, that the money is refunded to those who purchased the raffle tickets. It would be to work collaboratively with other building principals and the superintendent to develop an equitable funding plan. Because the other schools' money is, it seems like their money gets put in with ours and then split amongst the schools. We want to make sure we're doing something fair, because it was our fundraiser that didn't work in Briardale. So we want to make sure that the other buildings' curriculum doesn't suffer because of a mistake made by our school. The third choice would be to evaluate what the current policies are when it comes to working with foundations and fundraising and accepting donations, and then develop some updated policies that will ensure that a situation like this does not happen again. So, option one, if we look at option one, which would be to take no action, the pros of it, it's little work on the principal's part. It kind of washes his hands of the situation. The cons to it are there are no steps to repair community relationships, and community relationships are very valuable. It also means that our students are going to miss out on the supplementary curriculum in the upcoming school year, which would be really unfair to them. And then there's no preventative measures to stop this from happening again. Option two would be to take full responsibility. So we would have to apologize to the community members and refund their money, cut the supplementary curriculum programs for the upcoming school year, and to take steps to end the parent foundations. The pros of this would be to begin to repair the school community relationship so that we can start building some trust again. It would also mean that we could take some steps to prevent it from happening again, because if we don't have the parent foundations, the problem can't happen again. The cons are that a full apology could lead to some legal issues, because then you're accepting responsibility for a crime, so you definitely would want to consult someone before moving forward with that. Students would also miss out on that opportunity for that supplementary curriculum where some of our students really thrive. So without having that, it could be detrimental to the students. Also, the parent foundations generate funding that may be missed if we don't have it. So without those parent foundations, I'm not sure how we would fill in those gaps. Option three would be to acknowledge some shared responsibility, which means we would apologize to the community for not ensuring all policies are in place, and we would take steps to refund their money. The next thing we would do is work collaboratively with the other building principals and superintendent to develop an equitable funding plan, and then again, we would evaluate and develop updated policies. The pros of this are that it begins to repair that school community relationship that's so vital. It takes steps to prevent this from happening again. And it allows the students to still have access to supplementary curriculum, which is really important to making sure that we're meeting the needs of all of our students. The cons are, again, that an apology may lead to legal issues in the future.